things off, and the first thing in the Tottenham update we're going to be talking about is Ange Postecoglou and some of his comments in the press conference. He was asked about Tottenham needing reinforcements in January. He said, it's fair to say we are a little bit short in a couple areas and we will need to reinforce in January, which is no surprise. He did say earlier, a few months ago, that in January they'll reassess where the squad is at and we'll see if we'll need to reinforce. And it looks like he's moving in the direction of we definitely do need some reinforcements given the injury crisis. He also said reinforcement, like I said a while ago, we've been planning. A lot of it was going to be around where we're at this time. Fair to say we're a little bit short in a couple of areas and we need to reinforce. But January is a trickier in terms of what sort of players who we can bring in. For us, ideal for any club, I guess, you want to bring in people who are going to make you stronger. I think the fact, obviously, we're still in a Carabao Cup semi-final, still got Europe, FA Cup, we're all in this we're on all competitions. It's not like our schedule is going to ease up at any stage. So I think it makes sense. We will try and reinforce where and what number. We'll have to wait and see. Obviously, last January, cast your mind back to, obviously we needed a centre-back desperately and we did spend 30 million bringing in Radu Dragushin. We needed a forward. We ended up getting Timo Werner on loan. So we do know January is a trickier window than the summer, especially this year as well. Ange mentioned in his press conference how this season also it's even more tricky than usual because there are some years where there are teams who are out of Europe by this stage and, looking to offload some players to decrease the wage bill. But this season, with European football going into January, it's even less likely that some of the top teams are going to want to thin out their squads in the second half of the season because they've still got European games to contend with. So that's another added element as to why January is going to be even more difficult. Obviously, I'm sure you probably agree with Ange, we need reinforcements, but where would you prioritise those reinforcements?
Joe, before we go on to where we need them, Stephen, just to address some of the comments Ange said. When he goes, we need those reinforcements, we said we're assessing where we were in January. I don't think anyone at Tottenham Hotspur thought going into January, bottom half of the table, massive injury issues, and all the things that have happened. So the numbers need to be brought in. Now it comes down to, we were hearing in the build-up beforehand that not a lot of money will be about in January. The normal spiel that we hear from this football club. I think we're at a time now where they need to push the boat out. I don't mean go break the bank 80, 90 million pound players. They need genuine quality. And we need both quality and numbers for strength in depth. I think one of the great things we got, and again, like I did last season, I said I'm judging this whole window not on the amount of money we spend, but on speed that players come in. Because we need them desperately. We've got a semi-final, like you said. Whether they'll be ready for Liverpool, the first leg is a big question mark. We got the filth. We've got there's some big Europe, which they won't be able to be ready.
Two big games now. Those two big games in Europe as well.
I think the big thing about this is, and I don't know why it's happened this year, but it's a saving grace for us, is that the second leg is in February. Because the last time we were here, like we were speaking about after the United game, the Chelsea game was the last semi-final, and were a week or 10 days apart. So we've got some saving grace in the second leg of that semi-final. But yeah, players need to come in. I mean, you asked at the beginning, where do I think we need? Left back, without a shadow of a doubt. I think that's the number one position for me that we need some real help for destiny and not just putting Spence left, right. I think we need another centre-back. Everyone will say a number 6, but we know Ange doesn't really play with a 6. And we need a winger that can deliver exceptional and regular ammunition to Dominic Solanke, in my opinion.
I agree with all of that. Obviously, I don't think we're going to spend big money on 4 separate players in January. We'll be lucky to get one or two, I would say. So if given that we have to pick and choose, where do you prioritise where we go? If I only offer you two of those positions, where are you prioritising?
Well, the fact that Ben Davies will come back, whether you like him or not, he's been very good until he got his hamstring. If I had to, out of the positions I mentioned, I'd probably go left back and a winger. In
Yeah,
my opinion, we need to
I'd
get some.
agree. I'd agree. I'd also go with a defender, maybe a player who can kind of play centre back / left back, and also a player in the forward line. I just think we need that extra quality, especially with Odebear. We don't know if we're going to see him again, especially at full fitness this season. So we can't. Yes, he might be back in February or whatever, but can we rely on him even when he's back? He's come back already and been injured. And on top of that, he's only 19, so he's even going to make the impact we need him to make when he gets back. So I kind of feel like we can't even look at Odebear as a proper option right now. We need to get another winger on top of him. Now, yeah, I think it's very, very difficult in January to get good quality players. The question is, like, for a defender, do we get a stopgap kind of player? There's rumours of people like Ben Godfrey on loan, who's from Atalanta, who's obviously a player who knows the Premier League and he's English. Obviously, it also gets a bit more complicated as well, given the fact that whoever we sign, how do we register them for Europe? Because we can't even register Jed Spence right now, who's in the squad, and he can't be registered for Europe because of the lack of places. So, again, are we going to go back to trying to get a homegrown player back in the squad? And that leaves basically, do we go for a short-term deal for like Kyle Walker-Peters? Do we maybe go for a loan deal for like Marcus Edwards, and then we can register for the Europe? Or do we just go and say, look, we're going to sign these players, but we're just going to leave them out European squad and just have them play in the Premier League?
This is the conundrum we find ourselves in, isn't it? I mean, for me, like we said, if we're only saying, like we said, 2 players, I'd want us to go for ready-made, not youth or short-term deals. If we're going to go for 2, you got Hyuk,
Hyuk,
sorry if I pronounced it right or wrongly. He's in now, but we can't put any expectations on him whatsoever just arriving. And it'd be wrong to put everything on him. If we're going to go for a winger, and listen, we when it comes to the winger, we need someone that can guarantee regular ammunition to Dominic Solanke, like a proper winger that can bring in delivery, excellent delivery as his key attributes. They don't come cheap. They don't come cheap. And I don't want a stopgap to say, oh, we'll see it till then, because we've done that before. So I would hope we push the boat out, but then you add that extra layer that you've just put on about the homegrown issue in the European. You can juggle it. Is it in February after the qualifications? The last 2 games.
You can change. If let's say, well, hopefully, if we're into the top 8, we won't be playing again until March.
Yeah.
So I think you can rejig it, but I don't think. I don't know how we rejig it unless we leave someone out. Like maybe we leave out Timo Werner, we leave him out the squad and we'll put the new signing in. Like we're going to have to, if rejigging it means taking out players who are already in there. And, is he going to take out Forster? He's made it pretty clear that he thinks it was a good decision at this point to leave Forster in, given the injury to Vicario. I don't know who he leaves out because we got... he can't even leave out he can't leave out Austin or Whiteman because all that does is shrink the squad even more. Yep. The only other one would be maybe Ben Davis, but, I don't think we can leave him out right now. So I don't know. I don't see... It's going to be difficult. Maybe it's just a case of either he leaves out Werner, I think, who he clearly at the moment, there seems to be something going on between those two and he's not happy with him. Or could we even cancel his loan somehow? Maybe that's something we can look into, explore. Or... is it just a case of if we do sign a player, Brian, and we just say we're going to sign him, obviously he could be a long-term player, but unfortunately just for these 6 months while we sort the squad out, he's just going to have to be left out of the European squad. But it does mean that he'll be playing Premier League, and also means that we can adjust those minutes. We can still kind of manage people's minutes now in Premier League and Europa League, even though he's not going to be in the Europa League squad. Is that an acceptable situation?
Well, the thing is, like we were just saying as well, if we sign a winger, and obviously these are all if buts, maybe you would automatically assume, okay, that's a like-for-like replacement with Werner, wouldn't you? With everything going on, you'd think, right, that's the easy one. It's where else it comes. But then you also look at it, will you sign a player if he says, right, well, listen, we're in Europe, but we're not going to put you in the European squad for the rest of the season? Is a player of high quality or a standard, first-team standard going to go, yeah, I'll come and sit out Europe for 6 months? It's there's a lot of juggling to be done with this squad for January and for Europe. Please God that we're in the next round, or we will do, but whether it's a playoff or not. So there's a lot of juggling to be done, isn't there?
100%. And it's going to be interesting to see how Ange manages to do that and who we kind of prioritise in this window. But I completely agree with him. We definitely need reinforcements, and the squad is clearly running on empty at the moment. So let's see what business can be done. And also Pete O'Rourke, who's I think he's Footy Insider, but he's a journalist. He has also said that Ange Postecoglou retains the full support from key members of the Tottenham board, even with Spurs entering the festive period in the bottom half of the table. And for you, is that the right course of action for the time being?
Listen, there's a lot of debate about this right now. And I understand both parts of it. I've said all along I've never turned on a manager, and I'm not starting now. But I must admit, at the moment, with a lot of the reason, substantial, or not substantial, probably 50% of where I am with why I want Ange to stay is I don't want to do another manager merry-go-round. Now, some people are saying, well, that's a stupid way to look at it. We could get a manager that could be better suited to this team. I understand that, and partially I agree with it, but we've done that before, and then 18 months later we're in the same place. You look at it, we've got players.
Who is this mythical manager who's better suited to this team?
This is the thing, Sim. When you look at it, the way I've looked, you just got to look at the fullbacks over the last few managers. You just look. We've bought fullbacks to play in the back four, then brought in a back five manager who plays them as wing backs and can't play it. Then we go back to a back four manager and play the wing backs that were meant to be wing backs at fullbacks, and they're struggling in the. Listen. I understand both sides of the argument. I really do, because if you base this on results, if you base this on form, if you base this on tactics, right now it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good if you're looking at things, and I think going into Christmas, the first manager since Harry Redknapp to be in the bottom half, that's not a good look. No matter who you are, who the manager, it's not a good look.
But let's say we were to change the manager tomorrow. Does he get results out of this with the squad in the state that it is? Is he all of a sudden going to be able to turn it around with the kind of state of our defence right now? Does he get a result on Sunday like Ange did? Like I don't think much changes. I think. One of the benefits, if you're looking at this in a short-term view of like, we're 11th, it's not good enough, we need to, like, any manager would be in a better position, then the reason you would change manager right now is to get a bit of a short-term uplift so we can kind of start competing and getting that European places again. I just believe a new manager right now doesn't improve the immediate situation. So I don't see how that benefits Spurs, and also see that for me, when I've seen enough from this team when we are good and when we are in good form and everyone's fit and we have options to kind of rotate the team, that there is something to build towards and there is something to look at and say, actually, we are very good when we're on form. It's not like when we're playing well. It's not like when we're winning games. We're just a win. We're winning games where we don't deserve to win and like we're getting lucky. No, we're battering teams and we're playing very well. So for me, that's enough to hang my hat on and say, well, can we get back to that form? Can we see that a bit more consistently? And can basically when we get the squad back, is it likely or is there a chance we can see that football more consistently? And I'm willing to wait it out rather than say, we've got this injury crisis and we're in terrible form, so let's just bin the manager. When if we get we've even seen it's not maybe analogous properly, but like Ten Hag got sacked and Amorim's come in. I'm not saying it was the wrong decision to sack Ten Hag and bring Amorim in, but I'm just saying they haven't gotten any short-term benefit from it, have they? Their form has continued to be very, very poor. And yes, maybe in the long term they'll benefit from it, but right now they're not, and they might have to finish the season in 13th because they've changed the manager mid-season. And because they've gone in this direction where they're going on a new process, new project. Now, Tottenham starting this new process and project mid-season, is that a clever thing to do when we already play good football when we're at our best? So let's just, I think we should just, there's a sticky patch right now. It's tough. We've got to ride through this storm and see where we come out the other side. That's where I see it.
So basically, first of all, let's try and break this down in the order. First of all, when it comes to a new manager, Manchester United went and got Amorim, paid the compensation, got him over the line, dealt with it quickly. Do I believe that if Spurs were, not that I want them to, but if Spurs were to sack Ange, Spurs will will pay compensation and get a manager out of the club? No, I don't. No, I don't. They'll go for a Graham Potter or a Gareth Southgate, someone who's out of work and they can bring in because they won't pay the compensation, or will the manager want to come to Spurs? So you never know. So that's one reason. You mentioned about when the squad comes back, and we do. Listen, we have a lot of injuries. We have a hell of a lot that you can't ignore. But one of the things I will say is, how long is it till one of them pick up another injury with the demands of our game? Or it's I mean, it's been hamstring injuries, it's muscle injuries that keep reoccurring and happening. How long can we keep players fit?
I take that point, but let's say a lot of people saying, "Oh, let's get Iraola, right? Iraola,
Yep.
let's get him." He's second to Tottenham when it comes to the running stats. He's right up there as well. Like, is he going to be any less demanding than Ange Postecoglou on this team? Is he going to say, "Actually, you can run less," when his team demands that you run a lot? Like, is that going to improve things?
Yeah, you're right. But you know, the other thing as well, I mean, my number one was that if it was to happen, my number one would be the number one before Ange came, and that's Thomas Frank. I think he's absolutely exceptional. I really, really love him. But going back on it as well, you with Ange Postecoglou, what I've noticed as well with this fan base is, and it's become a big problem, is you can't criticise anything that goes wrong. If you criticise something that went wrong, or you think maybe you should drop deeper, or it's like you're saying he's out, he's shit, he's great. You can't. We've come to a point with Ange Postecoglou where you can't critique him without people saying, right, you don't know what you're talking about, you don't know Ange. But watch, the stats aren't looking great. I want him to succeed. I still think there's a positive. If he gets the players he needs in January, I'm holding on for dear life that he can turn this round and take us there. And like I said, I don't want to go through another managerial project. I can't do it. I can't keep doing this every 2 years. We need to stick with the manager. But I also understand lots of people probably in the comments, or will hear this after, oh my God, Brian, what more stats do you need? Sava brings loads of stats up, and he's right with all of them. He is, whether you agree with Sava or not, what he brings up are stats. But like I said, I can then go on the stats with the managers we've had, the managers that have failed, the managers that have come, the styles of play, and I just can't do it anymore. But it's not looking rosy at Spurs, and I just hope. I think we need to analyse this again after the next two games, when the new year comes in. Like, don't get me wrong, if we have 2 wins and we have a good January, things could turn around. But people have also got to realise, if we lose the next 2 games, it could be the exact opposite, and pressure will severely mount. So I think Spurs fans at the moment are in a rock and a hard place.
I think that's a consequence of how tight the table is, isn't it? 2 wins and we're 4 points. Well, right now we're 4 points off 5th. 2 wins, all of a sudden you could be in 5th, and then 2 losses, you're in 13th, and that's how tight the table is. And so that's why I'm not interested right now in kind of snapshots in time in terms of right now. Yeah, Sava can bring up all these stats, and as you say, those stats are valid. But for me, I think the context of those stats are look how he is doing compared to other managers that we've sacked before, right? But I think we have to look at this in a different way. First of all, you could argue whether was it right to sack all those managers, whether you can make that argument or not. But we decided to sack those managers when we did. But we're doing this the way we're going in right now. What we're trying to do with Ange Postecoglou is something different, and I think we've got to look at it in a different way rather than we're in poor form and we're in this position in the table, so that's not good enough. And previous managers we've sacked at this point, so this manager should be held to the same standard. But we're trying to, this is a different kind of project. This is not something that we were under Mourinho and Conte, where they were brought in to win now, and it's almost as if like, well, if we don't win now, then it's the club's fault, and I'm going to spit my dummy out the pram. No, and just building something with young players, a young team, changing the style of play and all these different things, and that doesn't come overnight. That's not an easy thing to do. It's not going to just be plain sailing, especially in the way we're trying to do it with all these, Berg, Val, and Gray, and these very, very young players that are going to need time to really flourish at this club. So I think we need reinforcements. I think we need our players back, and I think all these different circumstances. But I'm more interested about where we finish, not where we are after 17 games. If we finish in the top 5, no one's going to be saying, but you were 11th after 17 games, so you've got to go. You know what I mean? It will be irrelevant. It's what's relevant is where we actually finish and what we do come the end of the season. You've got to give them a chance to do that, in my opinion, rather than just bidding it off.
Simon, you're correct where you are when you're saying looking up. People, when we're looking up as well, you've also got to look at where we could be looking down. And right now, and listen, I've championed youth and wanted to see youth. And as you know, Simeon, since I've been coming on here, I wax lyrical about Alfie Devine. I've wanted him to succeed and get in the team as quickly as possible. I adore him. And I've kept saying that when you bring in these young stars, big teams around us bring in these youngsters, but they have a crop of stars around them, experience, talent, genuine quality to nurture them, to train them, to educate them, to see them through games, to support them. And we just keep chucking lambs to the slaughter. And you look at it right now, through no fault of his own, Archie Gray's got to go in defence. He's an 18-year-old kid. There's no support for him. The midfield, look at the midfield in front of him. Basuma, way off form. They're like lambs to the slaughter, and they are absolutely shattered. When we did have the full squad, there was hardly any rotation. I mean, in game, obviously Europa League, he dropped and rotated, which I was really, really impressed with. But he rotated in a way that he still kept stars in. But the Premier League during games could have freshened things up, or substitutions earlier, or kept players fit. But we keep playing the same team. I think it was Ariane. Was it Ariane after the Chelsea game when he made the point about for the Southampton game Chelsea had before, they made 8 changes.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they have a very, very big squad. There's no doubt in the talent they have. But they can rotate and keep that team fresh. Other teams do that. We're just like, right, the same 11, maybe one change here, 2 change here. And that's what's not been helping. But like I said, we are where we are. And hopefully Ange can dig himself, or not, I don't say dig himself out of the hole, but obviously the pressure is mounted outside the club. We don't know what's going on inside the club. And like I said, I am wanting Ange to succeed, and I won't turn on him. But I can understand why people are. Their reasoning I can get.
Look, I can understand it because every other manager who's done as badly as Ange has done right now has been sacked by this football club. So that's what they expect. Every other manager, any manager at this football club who has got the results that Ange has got has been sacked. Right? That's the fact. So that is the expectation that fans have been set. That if you're at this stage and you're getting these results, you should be sacked. That's the expectation the club has set by how they've treated other managers. And what I'm trying to say is we should try and look at this in a different way. Try and actually see what we're trying to do instead of act. My point is we shouldn't be acting in the same way we've always been acting, right? Because we keep doing the same thing, we're going to end up in the same place, all right? So maybe let's just not completely throw things away in mid-season like we do so often, and to actually try and go in a different direction and try actually let the manager ride out the storm rather than just throw him into the storm and basically sack him and go in another direction mid-season where we're basically chucking the towel in this season, essentially, if I feel, if we sack the manager now and go in a different direction. We're basically saying we're going for another project and we're going to have to adjust to another way of playing, and it's basically going to be next season where hopefully things start to go right rather than turn things around this season. So I think we should stop acting like we've been acting in the past however long, right? Hiring and firing managers, and actually just stick by him and just see where we are at the end of the season. Now, at the end of the season, if we're still in 11th and we've gone out all the cups early and we haven't even looked like going on a cup run and things have gone completely wrong, then that's time to say, okay, let's maybe go in a different direction. But I think right now, while everything is still open, while we're only 4 points off 5th, while we're still in a semi-final of a League Cup, while we're potentially in Europa League knockout stage, while we're still in the FA Cup, you know, you got to give him a chance to fail. He hasn't failed yet. You got to give him a chance to fail. And that, for me, that means going out of everything, and then we assess it. Then that's just where I stand.
I'll just say final, just in final, like you've seen on the bottom of the title, Anthony's reinforcements. Come January, a lot of what you said, I can relate to with what the fans are feeling, with how the fans are expressing their support or dismay at the management. I'm talking about Ange, not the owners. But where I am going with this now is let's see the fibre of the fabric of the owners and see what happens in January. If it's another cheap deals, loans, sell to buy, we can't afford it nonsense, then you know exactly that this club is setting him up for failure, like every other manager. But we're going to have to see this one really splits. It really splits opinions. And like I said, I understand both sides, but I just can't bring myself to say the word out for the manager like I can easily say it for the owner. I just can't do it. I just can't at the moment.
All right, let's move on to the next topic. And we're going to talk about Kulusevski. And what's quite interesting about these Kulusevski quote, he's been speaking after the Liverpool game, and he seems to kind of question some of the tactics from Ange Postecoglou. I'll read out some of the quotes. I did watch the interview, and I have to say, when I watched it, you do get a different kind of vibe to watching it than you do maybe just reading out the quotes, because you don't maybe get the tone of how he's saying it. But I'll read them out anyway. He was asked about the team's shortcomings. He said, what's it called? He said the problems are not just black and white. He said if you want to get he was asked, do Tottenham need more controlling games? He said if you want to get a result, maybe yes. You have to think about how we are physically, who's playing, how many games how many games have we played the last week, who are we playing, have they rested for 1 week or something. You have to put everything in, because it's like life. It's not just black and white. It's a lot of factors going into it. And then Kulusevski was asked as well, with the state of the squad, is the way we're playing sustainable? He said maybe not, but you have to improve. You have to find ways. Maybe we should have let them have the ball more, but that's not how we play. We went out, we gave everything, it didn't work. Maybe we learn for next time. So a lot of interesting quotes there from Dejan Kulusevski. A lot of people suggesting maybe he's questioning the tactics. Maybe he's saying we should have played in kind of a different way going into this game. Look, I do think there's obviously a lot of validity to what he's saying, because we were out on our feet against Liverpool. We couldn't compete with them. We what's it called? We tried to match their energy, as Decky said in his interview, but we just weren't able to do it, and they were able to overrun us, and that led to the shit show that was Sunday. And there's no beating around the bush. It was as bad as it gets really on Sunday in terms of how out of the game we were. But what do you make of some of the comments he said there, Kulusevski?
All I will say, first of all, is first Romero talking about we all know what happened. Now Kulusevski talking about the manager. It's not a good look, is it? Now it's just how long until Kulusevski has to come out with an apology and say, yeah, this has been taken out, blah, blah, blah. I meant this, and this.
I think if I watched the interview, it's on CBS, and I think when you watch him say the words and you get the tone of what he's saying, rather than just reading out those quotes, where if you read out the quotes, you come up with the tone in your head, right, and you probably think he's being very critical. But when you hear him say, I think what he's trying to say is, like, could we have done something different? Yes, but that's not how we play. And I think what he's trying to say by that is not to say like how we play is wrong. He's saying we're set up in a certain way, and if we did something different, are we like going to be as perfect in that kind of way of playing, right, to get a result against a good team like Liverpool, when we haven't really trained in that way? We're trained in a different way, which is how we play. And could we have done something? If we do something different, we could try it, but we're obviously not going to be as refined or as perfect in that method of playing, and so that's not how we play. And so yes, we got to learn and we got to improve, but like I think when you hear him say it rather than kind of just read the words, I think it comes off as a different tone. Like he wasn't like angry or like frustrated when he was saying these things. Is my point.
Joe, as you know, Simeon, and anyone that's in the chat or watches this knows me, I am known as the king of the voice notes. On social media, on WhatsApp, on anything, because exactly what you said, because of the tone of voice, and you can hear everything. If you're joking, you're laughing, you're furious, you're sad, whatever, you can tell it all. And I think the opposite to you, Simeon. And I don't mean he's come out and he's come all guns blazing. I think at the end of the game, when he, especially him with his work rate, and he's been pulled out of position. Obviously, I understand why he put Kulusevski at right wing, because to give Porro protection and the work rate, the job. I personally get that part, but it shows how bare bone we are when we're moving our player of the season by a country mile out of his best position and forcing him to play, or not forcing him, but asking him to play somewhere else, and making our best player not be in his best position where he can have the most impact. I think it's, just like, yeah, what's the point? Not saying it's just like, I think this has been mentioned from things I've heard. The dressing room have questioned him occasionally on his tactics, saying this is too relentless, it's non-stop. I think it might be just like yeah, what can we do about it? We've said that, you know, I think that it's not been taken out of context. I think it's not as severe as what people are trying to make it. Like, oh my God, shots fired, but I think he is sending a little message. But I think there's some validity behind it. In all honesty,
I think at the moment, I was asked after the game on Sunday, is the way we're playing sustainable? And I said, well, currently no. I think that's clear to see. And I think we can't, at the moment, we are very much struggling to implement how Ange wants to play with the current state of the squad, the fact that we're playing the same players every game, with the defence that we have out there. 100%. I completely agree with that. Does it mean the approach in general is wrong? Not necessarily. But Ange, at the moment, is playing this way because he believes that we can still score goals, which is true, right? We can still score goals even with the team we have out there. You know, 5 against Southampton, we got 3 yesterday, we got 3 even against Chelsea. Like, we are scoring goals still. 4 against Man United as well. So he's of the opinion that if we try and just continue to score goals, maybe we'll get enough points to see us out this period, and then we'll come out the other side of it. Now, the reality is, we're conceding way too many. And especially when you come up against the best team in the league, Liverpool, you know, we conceded 6 goals. And maybe it was, you know, at that point, we were like lambs to the slaughter. But I'm also of the opinion that I don't see a universe where any changes gets as a result, really, on Sunday anyway. So he's probably just of the opinion that we'll try and score, we'll try and, you know, do what we do and see if we can get a result, rather than, you know, try and grinding out a point and then probably coming out with a loss anyway, and then you've gone away from your tactics and still got a loss. So that's kind of how he sees it, I think.
I can listen. I think that's exactly how he sees it. I think that's exactly how he sees it. And to me, this is one of the issues I do have with Anne, is you cannot play in consecutive weeks the worst team in the league by far. I didn't realise how poor Southampton were until that game, and then try exactly the same against the very, very best in the league at the moment, and one of the highest performing teams in Europe, and expect the same result or expect to do damage. Liverpool can adapt and cater to any, as we've seen all season. Apart from Forest, they have found the answers to the questions, and we have played the big boys. Apart from Man City, we have not found the answers. People will say Aston Villa, yeah, okay, let's put Villa in that mix. But it's just the same way. And the big teams, the big teams that are above us, are just like, we know what to do now. We know how to do this, and they find the Achilles heel, and they press down on it, and we don't do anything to respond to it. So with that, I think you can't not look at the manager and say you don't expect to be able to compete with the best team in the country by a mile at the moment. The same way you just beat the worst team and expect the same result. It's just you just can't do it. You just can't do it.
All right, next up, we're going to be talking about some transfer news, and this comes from Relevo in Spain, and they're saying that Johnny Cardoso could join Tottenham in January. Apparently, a scout was at the Real Betis game on Sunday to closely monitor Johnny Cardoso, and also apparently collecting information about the striker Vitor Roque. But according to Relevo, Tottenham do not rule out trying to advance for Johnny Cardoso in January. Real Betis need around 20 million in profits in transfers, and Cardoso is seen as someone who can help provide that, and therefore could be on the move in January. Obviously, we have that apparent, clause, but I think it's only activates in the summer. So whether we can agree a deal for the same price in January remains to be seen. But he's obviously a player, defensive midfielder, who would add more energy into the midfield. You said though, priorities for you would be a defender and a winger. But if we had the chance to bring him in early, would you take it?
I don't know enough about him to say, yeah, do you know what? He's going to be the impact. He's the difference. He'll be another body in midfield, won't it? But we've now got Bentancur back. Mm-hmm. So we've got him back. Is midfield a key area? I think, like you said, the only way this gets done is, once again, if a certain owner goes and tries to get a special deal for we'll see what happens. If someone said to me Cardoso would come in first signing, I don't know what I'd say to it. For me, the left back is the major priority. But we've done this before, haven't we, Sim, where we've needed positions desperately and we've gone and brought someone in completely a different position. So could I see this happening? Yes. Can I comment if it'll be a great signing or not? No, because I don't know enough about him, and I'm not going to just say stuff just for the sake of it.
I've got a feeling, though, that we're waiting to sell one of Bentancur or Basuma to bring him in. And I think I've got a feeling that that's why we're probably more likely to do it in the summer when I don't see Basuma or Bentancur leaving in January. And as long as they're here, and whatever people think about them, they're still players that I think Ange trusts right now, and on their day can be all very good players. So I think while they're here, I don't think we move for Cardoso in January unless we sign for a pre-agreement for him to come in the summer in January. I think we're going to wait in the summer, sell one of Basuma or Bentancur, and then bring him in, and all of a sudden that'll be our 6, I think. So I think it's unlikely, especially with the whole European squad situation, that we get him in Jan. I just don't see all 3 of them being here at the same time. I just think it's highly unlikely that'll be the case. So I think it'll be a good signing for us. I think he's doing really well at Betis. He's the kind of player that we need when it comes to his ability off the ball. He's a bit of a beast. But yeah, as I say, while Bentancur and Basuma are here, I think it's unlikely we move in for a player like that. Next up comes from 2 reports from Ali Gold and from the Daily Mirror. They're reporting that Daniel Levy has conducted an interview with Talk Sport by Simon Jordan, and that interview is set to be released in the near future. Not sure when exactly the release of this said interview is going to be. We know that Daniel Levy doesn't really do much press interviews, does he? It's very rare that you get to see him in front of camera and do an interview. Simon Jordan is not one, usually, is he, to pull his punches or to not to ask difficult questions if he gets an opportunity to, especially, usually when he's having a debate with someone on Talk Sport, he'll happily go after them for their thoughts and whatever. So what are you expecting from this interview with Simon Jordan and Daniel Levy?
The coward that Daniel Levy is to do what Daniel Levy does. He does a scripted one on Spurs official YouTube channel or social media channel with that whole every penny goes back into the club, blah, 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 that famous one. Has the AGM done where obviously selected people got in and no one would ask him the difficult questions. And now he does an interview with his best bud in football. Simon Jordan, I will say and give him credit, he will tackle hard questions. Do I believe that he'll ask Levy them or pressure him? No, I don't. I'd love an independent media person that would ask the questions, or even fans. Sit with, you've had the fans forum, we'll now have the people like myself, not saying me specifically, that will ask you the tough questions to be answered, and let's see what you have to say to them. I expect this to be exactly the same as the YouTube video a couple of years ago. Scripted questions, pre-prepared answers, and won't talk about the difficult times or answer the difficult questions, and he'll be the coward that he always is.
But Simon Jordan is someone who kind of prides himself on asking difficult questions, isn't he? On being a bit of a, since he's gone on to Talk Sport, he's not been shy about his opinions to anyone. He'll say it to people's faces. They've had people guess on where he's not been shy about his opinions, has he? To some of these people. So, is there a chance he might hold Levy's feet to the fire a bit?
I think, listen, one thing I enjoy listening to Simon Jordan. I really do. I think he's a breath of fresh air apart from when this conversation comes up and he leaps into defence mode of him. And I can understand why, being a fellow chairman, whatever. So I think some of the things he says about Levy are wrong, very wrong. I do think he'll ask you some tough questions, but Levy will probably give
Levy answer them, yeah.
Exactly, that's the thing. He'll ask the questions, and there'll be like a squirmy answer, and then it just won't be pressed down on. Like people go for our Achilles heel, it won't go anywhere near. Won't put him under pressure or under fire, because he'll just go, no, stop. I expect it to be a very, very. And I said I expect Simon Jordan to ask some questions that will put him in a difficult place, but not the really big ones that the fans want to hear.
Will you be watching?
Believe me, I'll be watching, and then I'll be reacting. Because I think I know what's coming. It'll be another pathetic, cowardly interview by Levy, not Jordan. I've got a great deal of time for Simon Jordan. I like listening to him.
Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see what that interview brings, and if or when it is released. Last but not least, according to Footy headline, Footy, who was it? Let me just get the source out. Yeah, Footy headlines. There's been a leaked kit for the 25-26 season, and apparently this is how it's going to look. We can bring it on screen. It is a all-black kit. As you can see, it's got like kind of grid lines, very faint. You can see on that picture, but if you look closely enough, you can see the grid lines there. I can't remember the last time we've had an all-black kit, but I kind of like the idea of Tottenham being in all-black again.
Yeah, I mean, listen, to be fair, that is a stunningly beautiful kit. That really is. That is, let's just say some retail outlets, not from the Spurs shop, are going to have a field day with that one. But that is a stunning kit, I have to say.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that. I think maybe we can cook in that kit. I wouldn't say no. I wouldn't say no.
Or you can say we're in mourning.
Maybe we're going to be in mourning after missing out on European football for another year. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But look, apparently that is the kit, for the away kit, I should say, for next season. So look, let's see if there's any truth to it. Obviously, Footy headlines usually apparently are quite accurate when it comes to the kit leaks. So I guess we'll see if there's any truth to it. But that is your Tottenham update. Thank you for joining us for that. And let us know in the comment section below anything we discussed today on that